everybody. I just wanted to have a quick second to let you guys know how much it means to me that you are my sponsor. SRP Studios, The Real Hernando, The Rhythm Section, Hardwick, Heating, Cooling, and Air Quality, Estes, Grading, Hodge Homes, Adair, Honey Farm, Miss Hippie Eats, Phones R Us, Ross, Sod Farms and Landscaping, Ivy Rain, Women's Clinic, Tonic POS by Tyler Young, and Coffee Central. Thank you guys so much for being a sponsor. If you'd like to be a sponsor, go to my website now, motivatecoachcamp.com, and click on the button. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. Of course, I am your host, Coach Camp, and if you are not paying attention, well, start paying attention. Look around. We are in the amazing studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Michaud. All right, folks. First of all, I want to just one quick thing. I want to say thank you guys for tuning in to the whole cancer series. It was an absolutely amazing series. Amazing people that came on and shared some very intimate stories. Heartwarming, heart-touching, heart-tugging stories, obviously. It's crazy just how that whole thing kind of came together for me. But in the moment, it was like, I know this is the right thing to do. So anyways, it was beyond me. I did not have a lot to do with it other than I just know I was being led in that direction and I followed. Well, today's story is another just strong-willed, hard-fighting, not going to give up, and you can't put something in front of me that I'm not willing to tackle kind of story. This individual came to me through a mutual friend, and ironically, and this is the part that'll be kind of cool to talk about in the whole interview, is she actually got to see me doing the Coach Camp thing that I do at the Octagon recently, before we even knew each other. And so now today, she's agreed to come in. She wants to tell her story, share her background. And then I'll be honest with you, you guys are going to learn a lot. I know I've already learned a lot. Being a paramedic, I'm always intrigued by medical stories anyways. And this was stuff that I've never heard of. And she's just a strong person. Her story about some of the things that's had to happen to her and she's had to overcome, I think is going to be just absolutely encouraging. So I want you guys to tune in, follow along. And right now I'd like to introduce to you Miss Whitney Lavender. How are you doing, Miss Whitney?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for coming down today.
Thank you for having me.
You want to talk about dedication. So you didn't have a ride and you Ubered.
I Ubered.
To get here.
Yes. Plans changed and we just make it work. That's our motto. Make it work. Once again, you were not turned away.
You found an obstacle and you pushed it out of your way.
Yep.
That's outstanding. Miss Whitney, there are a lot of layers to this, okay? So I don't want to rush into one and I don't want to bounce around because I do have the ADDs sometimes.
Okay.
So we're going to follow a storyline. And sometimes the best way to do that is to kind of start at the beginning, build a foundation and work from there. So if you would, with my listeners, just talk a little bit about where you grew up, what your family life was like, and some of the things that you enjoyed doing as you were growing up.
Yeah. So I'm a Texas girl.
Okay.
I grew up in Amarillo, Texas, in the Panhandle. A little bitty town, not a whole lot to do. I kept myself busy, though. I got into ballet and dance at the age of 3, and that really became my life. But when I wasn't on stage, I was outside fishing or digging in the
Tomboy,
dirt. Very
as
much
they say.
so.
Yeah,
yes. Playing war in the back. Like growing up, you could play in other people's backyards.
Sure.
Like the whole neighborhood was a playground, Now you can't go in somebody's backyard and worry about
Parents
not getting
could get
shot,
onto you. And I know, right? It's like, hey, I had to spank your little kid last week. He deserved it. Yeah,
hey, they need to come wash off all the stuff they wrote on our sidewalk in chalk.
Don't you know? I've heard that one. Yeah. So did you have brothers or sisters?
I had a brother.
How old?
I have a brother. He's younger, 16 months.
Oh,
we were very close in age. Very, very close in age. So
I guess that worked out good then. You had a play buddy.
Yeah.
Typical brother-sister stuff?
Yeah, typical brother-sister stuff. As we got older, having the same friend crowd and stuff, it got a little hard sometimes. So,
I could see that.
You know, like I just want my space. I've grown up with you.
Yeah.
Go find something else to do.
Funny enough, my brother was just on our Cannonball show, and he talks about how I picked on him. I don't remember that so much. I always feel like I was nice.
Yeah, I know I was.
Yeah,
I mean, besides knocking him out with a skip it
There's
and stuff like
small
that.
things. So picky. So as you're growing up and playing out in the fields, going fishing, doing ballet, what is like life when you get to high school? Do you have those same interests? Did that follow you your whole life?
So when I hit high school, like my freshman year, I was exempt from 6 weeks tests and book reports and PE and all of the things. Ballet was a career. I was dancing with the college, West Texas A&M University in Canyon.
At how old?
At 14 is when I started. Yeah. And so I was doing the Lone Star Ballet with them. So I was in the Nutcracker. I would get out of school, go home, have like an hour to do a little bit of homework, grab a snack, go to ballet at like 5 o'clock. And I would go to ballet in Amarillo and then would have to drive the 30 minutes to Canyon to go to the college down there and practice with the college kids at night. And I would get done about 2 a.m. in the morning, have to drive the 30 minutes back to Amarillo. By the time you get home, you got to shower and unwind and go to sleep. And then you're up at 6 a.m. to do it all over again.
And all this is a teenager.
And that was a teenager. But I kept a straight A,
yeah,
GPA. I was a National Honor Society student. Like, I immersed myself in studies and ballet and all of that stuff.
Where did that come from? Did you have family that was big into dance? Or?
No. My mom really pushed me to get into it when I was little, and then it just kind of took hold. My childhood was good, but it was also challenging. At the same time, my mother was quite abusive, and I needed an escape.
Yeah.
And so those were my escapes.
How old were you when you realized that you were being mistreated, if you want to call it that? Well, when was the first moments?
I remember at like age 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you explain, or do you feel like you could talk about what was an incident?
Yeah, well, talking about ballet, I will never forget literally her just going to town, like smacking my head and banging me around, getting ready to go to a matinee performance of the Nutcracker that I was performing in.
Oh, my.
And I had to run out of the house and ran down the street and hid behind an air conditioner.
And this at the age of 5?
No, this was 13.
Oh, so just continued all the way into it.
Continued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Did your mom grow up in an embattled life?
She did.
Okay.
Same exact scenario.
Yeah, rarely, and I'll say rarely, and that's not true, but it does feel like rarely does a person just suddenly have that happen without something else intervening, causing that, whether it was drugs, alcohol, or a previous life of abuse. So then, was it her mom as well?
It was.
So it was just kind of passed on to the next generation, if you will. Yeah.
And I will break that curse.
Yeah. I know you will.
That ends with me. You know?
When people hear your whole story today, Miss Whitney, nobody will doubt that curse has been broken, young lady. Not at all. So then, at what point do you realize that this is just generational? Because I'm sure when you're little, you're thinking, it's me. It's all about me.
You do. I think becoming an adult, getting a little bit older, getting out of the house. Perspective.
Sure.
Perspective is everything. That has been like my motto since all of this has happened to me. Like,
that had to help heal a little bit from that part of things.
It did. Yeah. It really did. And, I forgave her.
That's tough.
I don't hold animosity towards her. We don't have a very good relationship now, and it's sad. But I don't hate her. And I've forgiven her. Yeah. And I want good for her. I want her to be healthy and happy. It's just probably not going to happen.
Kids they are resilient a lot of times in that way of, it's your parent. You love them. And no matter how many different ways they can find a way to be mad at you, it's always their heart, because that's who they're connected to, right? Yes. So obviously, growing up, you had 2 things going on. This is what I'm picking up. I say obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but to me, it's obvious. You had a love for something, and that was ballet. And a lot of times people find themselves running away from something or running towards something. And then sometimes those also intersect. So it does sound like you were trying to get away from the abuse, but at the same time, you found this thing you loved and found validation in, and you got, I'm sure, love and praise from that network of individuals.
Absolutely.
So you needed that. And that balance, I think, started to build the foundation of a strong person.
1,000%.
So when you're living it, you don't always recognize these are being tools put in my toolbox. You don't always see it that way. But once you get down the road, and going back to the word perspective, you see, and you're like, wow, I'm glad that I had this in my life. Because the flip to that is, let's say you didn't have ballet. And let's just say you were swamped with nothing but the abuse. How easy is it to fall into that dark corner of feeling worthless?
Like that.
Yeah. And then you could go a lot of ways with that. You could use that as your excuse in life as to why you end up with drugs, alcohol in your system, becoming an abusive person yourself. And it's not that it's not an excuse, it's a reason. But the reality is, we each have a moment in our life we get to make those decisions for ourselves.
Are you going to be a victim?
Or a victor. And that's the key.
And I will never be a victim.
And that's the mentality you got to have. That's the toughness you got to have. Because it's so easy to be the victim. It is. People say, oh, it's tough to be a victim. No, it's easy to be victimized. People can victimize you, but you don't have to stay there.
No, and it's your choice.
It is your choice.
It's your choice.
Empower yourself. And you know what? You need people in your corner. You need people.
And so flip side, I had a wonderful daddy.
There it is.
That was always in my corner and was always there to save me and was always there to pick me up and love on me and make sure that I knew I was wanted.
Yeah.
You know, so thank God for him.
Sure.
Because without him,
could have been the other way we're talking, right?
For sure.
Was he aware of the abuse at the time?
He was. She was abusive to him as well.
That's what that was my next question. So this was a full circle. All right. What about your brother? Was he being involved in any of this? No. He
was never touched.
Okay.
He was kind of the golden child, which always kind of threw me for a loop because he wasn't the straight A student. He skipped school all the time. He was a troublemaker. Like it just was baffling. Like how is he getting away
I don't want
with
to be a
all of that?
psychologist here, but it does make me think about something. Did your mom have a brother?
A sister that they didn't get along very well.
Do you think that her sister was treated differently?
Oh, 1,000%. I know she was.
See, and I'm only connecting that dot because it's so relevant. It's relevant and it's relatable.
It is.
People have lived those versions of whatever that is. It doesn't have to be this exact scenario, but if you start walking something back to where there was a disconnect in life, typically there's a trend. It's not something that just occurred. No. It can be, but it doesn't usually land that way. Not usually. Okay, so let's get past out of high school. So you are clearly not just doing some ballet, but you're thriving at it.
Yes,
it sounds like.
I was. And then my dad got cancer.
Oh, how old were you then?
I was 14.
Oh, man.
He was given 6 months. My mom had an affair and left. Took all the money, all the furniture. We came home one day and it was all gone. The house was empty and the bank account was empty.
Wow.
And my dad was in bed sick. And I had to stop dance and became the caretaker for my brother and my dad. And
how old were you at that moment?
14,
so
15. At 15, I quit dance, got my hardship license, and ran the household.
Were you still in school?
I was.
So you're still going to school?
I'm still going to school.
Making straight A's?
Making straight A's.
This hard shift. Now, to a point, and I'm only looking at this from a lens that I would think of. Her leaving, was it also kind of a blessing to you? Because it's easy to see that. You know, that's one stressor out of your life in that moment.
It was.
You wouldn't ask for the extra responsibility, and you're having to disconnect from something that you loved. But at the same time, it does simplify some stuff, it seems.
It did big time.
Yeah.
Like the whole atmosphere of the house kind of came down.
Relaxed a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know, it was a different shift. So it it was a blessing in disguise.
In some ways, yeah.
In some ways.
So then you start taking care of your dad, and what does that future look like?
Gosh, man, that was rough. You know, getting my brother to school every day, doing the grocery store thing, laundry, cooking. I mean, everything. Giving my dad his prednisone shots when he can't get out of bed, like everything. Getting him to chemo.
Wow. You were the head of the household.
I was the head of the household.
Yeah.
I did it all.
And
I did it all.
Did you have other family?
No. Like it was.
So there was no brothers, sisters of theirs, no aunts, uncles?
Nobody was
stuff,
really
cousins?
in town with us. So everybody lived out of town. So, I mean, like when I say it was me, we had a great church family.
Okay.
And they really did rally around. Man, I don't know, had we not been involved in that church at that time, how that would have worked.
Yeah. I've heard similar stories too of it's community. Sometimes it is neighbors. Sometimes it is church. You know, there's always that aspect that it's easy to think of that you were having to go through these battles, but then sometimes you look and you're like, hey, look, I did have some support here and there, but clearly at the house on a day-to-day basis, it's landing on you. And you said hardship, and something I think that is important for my listeners, a hardship, you file for that, you can get your driver's license before, you know.
I got my driver's license at 14. I've been driving since I was 14.
Yeah, so those are things that it's almost like a type of emancipation. You know, you can now become the leader of something. You can drive, you can make decisions, you can sign paperwork. There's all this stuff. What was that process like? Just because, the only reason why I want to highlight that for a second is because maybe someone's watching this right now and they're finding themselves in that tough spot. and they don't even know about this.
Yes. Well, things were a lot different back then.
Sure.
Things were so
you
much
still
easier.
can file for that. Yeah,
But
it may
you
not be
still
so
can.
easy.
I remember my dad just packed us up and we went to the DPS office one day.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, hey, this is the scenario. What are our options? And they were like, oh, well, this is what we have for that, you know? And so thankfully he had the wherewithal. He was a truck driver for UPS for 40 years. So he was like, there's a way around this. You
Sure.
know?
He knows stuff and knows people. I'm sure.
So we went straight down to the DPS office and got me a hardship immediately. Like I remember when I turned 16, I didn't have to take my driving test and all of that. And all my friends were so confused. And I was like, well, I've been doing this for 2 years already. So I'm kind of null and void at this point.
Right.
So,
yeah. So then you graduate high school. How old are you?
18.
So you're 18 and you're still taking care of your dad all this time?
Well, so my dad remarried.
Okay.
A few years later, he miraculously recovered from cancer that first time very quickly.
What kind of cancer, if you don't mind me asking?
He had small cell lymphoma.
Okay.
It started in the spleen. His spleen was 10 times larger than what it should have been.
Wow.
Like it was insane. So they had to remove it. It came back 16 times.
Wow.
Over the years. The last time it was leukemia. So it was interesting how it would come in different ways. Yeah. A chemo that would work for one cancer, he would get re-diagnosed again and have an awful allergic reaction and almost died a couple times. And it was something that he had already had. Like there was just it was so wild watching it. It was brutal. So
I've got to stop on that right there. How many years did he battle this?
16. He lit like 16.
So almost every year. He has some new battle come his way.
I would be bracing myself for that phone call every year. And it got to the point where I would always be the last to know because he knew I took it so hard every time.
I was going to ask, why is that? Because it's hitting hard. So how much of his story plays into what we're going to learn about you?
Oh, my gosh.
Of strength and fight.
My grit comes from that man. 1,000,000% unequivocally. He taught me what it's like to push through and keep a smile on your face, no matter how painful it is, no matter what you're going through. He smiled through every single bit of it. He never, ever, ever let it get him down, and he never let it stop him.
You know, I've said this on several episodes. The cancer episode that we just finished up, we had a whole series right before yours is airing right now. And attitude toward your obstacle matters not just for you, but for everyone around you.
Everybody. You
never know how much you're having an impact on someone else in the moment you're fighting the storm that you're in. And you're giving them strength and courage that a lot of times that person doesn't even realize that they needed later.
Yeah.
They don't see it coming. And they're watching what you've done. And that's giving them the hope that whenever they face their things, whatever that will be, that they can fight through because they can look back at that person as an example. Man.
Yeah.
God knew what you needed.
Oh.
All those things are curses, but they were gifts.
But they were gifts.
Yeah.
Every one of them. Every one of them. Everything in life has shaped me into the person that I am today.
Incredible.
Every bit of it, you know, and I don't take any of it for granted because I wouldn't be the person I am today without all of it.
So what I want to stop right here and say to my listeners and my viewers, you may be in a storm right now, and you may not see how anything you're going through is relevant, how it's fair. Trust me. When I say I understand things are not fair, I get that. Life is not fair. But man, it's relevant. And there is something that needs to be grasped from that moment. And it's maybe not always just for you. It's for everybody around you, people that are watching you and care about you. They need that strength later. So you can only have that in hindsight a lot of times. It's hard to know that in the moment. But that's what we've talked about. We started the whole conversation with perspective, which clearly, as you said, is a big part of your life.
Yes.
It's a big part of your life. So then we talked a little bit about once you got to be 18. So now you've graduated high school. Share with me what happens to you next, because this is the beginnings of some of the battles you're going to go through.
Yeah. Well, I did go through a little bit of a tough time after I graduated. I got into some drugs and some just doing some wrong things for a while. Went down a really wrong path. And then got pregnant pretty early at 21. And that changed everything. That pulled me out of it. I mean, I never went back, to that lifestyle again. Loved being a mama. Yeah. That was such a blessing. The father of that child, I did marry, and it ended up being a pretty disastrous.
And you married him at 21?
I married him at 21.
Didn't you say, though, at 18 you developed a condition in your brain?
2018. In 2018. In
2018. Okay, so that's what I had heard wrong then. So then at 21, that was your next, so that was the next situation that you started to face. And so how long were you married to this individual?
About a year and a half. Oh. Didn't last long.
Was he physical, mental?
Physical,
abuse?
Mental, emotional, verbal,
everything.
All of it. Wow. The night before I left, he got a gun. He held it to his head, to my head, and to my son's head. He was 1. And he said, if you leave, I'm going to kill all of us tonight.
Domestic abuse is something that, so many people out there that's not involved in it or seen it or been a part of it, they say, why don't you just leave? And sometimes it's not that easy.
It's not that simple.
And the fear of them finding you is constant. And then let's just be honest. Protection is not always guaranteed. No. You go and you file stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to watch.
Anything.
So share some of this next few days, years, months that you deal with this stuff.
Man, I mean, I left the next day. He went to work. I left the next morning and never went back. We waited. I went and filed for divorce immediately. The day I knew he was going to get served, we waited down the street. Me and my dad, my uncles, cousins. We went with a bunch of trucks, trailers. Waited, watched him come home for lunch, and then leave to go back to work. Gave it a few minutes to make sure he didn't turn around. Pulled up. You have never seen somebody pack up a house so daggum quickly. I tell you, an hour and a half. We went in, packed up everything, got it out, and pretty sorry way to leave, I know, but in that circumstance, it was the only way to leave.
Yes.
So when he got home from work that night, he was served papers and was notified that there was a restraining order against him, that he was not to come anywhere near me or the child. And, a bunch of phone calls were made immediately with a bunch of screaming and stuff. But thankfully, he stayed away for those first few days.
Where did you go?
To my dad's.
Okay.
Yes, my dad was still alive at the time, thank goodness.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of land there temporarily. It wasn't a real long-term thing, but I was able to go there temporarily.
Think about the mental strength you have to leave somebody that you know is abusive, that you're scared of, that has clearly showed that they have talked about and said that they would kill you and your son. Your son's 1 year old.
Well, and I had had a gun shot at me in the front yard trying to leave once before. So I knew that he was capable.
Wow. Yeah. That's not just a threat.
No.
I mean, at 21, you're 22 now,
22.
Maybe? Yeah. You've lived the lifetime of trauma in 22 years.
Absolutely.
So then where does this go next? So does he finally just disappear from your life?
Yeah. Drug addict.
Okay.
Yeah. Disappeared from the kid's life. Never really to be seen again.
Yeah.
In and out of jail. Resurfaced later on, and it was a real nasty interaction. I've never had anybody speak to me so awfully in all my life. So thankfully, that's not something I have to deal with anymore.
Yeah.
And not something that my son had to deal with, Think
about that, though. Again, going back to your mom, the mental abuse that you took as a kid probably toughens you to a point that taking that mental abuse from your first husband, it's not like you loved it, but you had a toughness there that you may not have had.
Yeah. You're calloused to it, I guess is a good way to say it.
That is a good way to say it.
You
were conditioned in a way that you could, at least absorb the blows a little bit.
Yeah. You just kind of let it roll off and keep going, keep doing, I was going to school. I was working full time. I was,
So then he leaves out of your life. What are the next days? All this is behind you now.
Yeah. So I stayed in Amarillo for a little bit, and then I decided, hey, let's get it. Let's start over. Let's really start over. So I packed up and moved to Austin.
Okay.
And loved it.
Did you know anybody?
My mom was there.
Okay.
My mom was there.
So you were back in communication with her again. Yeah.
repair that.
That's brave. And I'm telling you, man, that's strong. You got to have strength to even want to do that.
It didn't work. But we tried it. We tried it for a
Yeah.
little bit. Like I really, really wanted it.
Sure.
I wanted that relationship to get better. I wanted that healing to occur. And I wanted that mother-daughter relationship that I had craved my entire life. And I thought maybe we're in a place now that we can do this.
Yeah.
I'm a mom and she's a grandmother and it's different. And it just didn't work.
Sometimes time does heal wounds. Sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it sounds like it didn't, but you gave it a shot, right?
I did.
So you're in Austin. What are you doing while you're down there?
I started going to school there. I was in school to be a teacher, a math and science education teacher, and working. Just trying to kind of start over. Loved it. Loved every bit of it. Loved the concerts. Loved the atmosphere. It was just a great place.
That's the capital, if I'm not. Am I wrong?
It's
it is
the
the capital.
of
Okay.
Texas.
So I was thinking,
Yeah. I was a UT fan always growing up. My dad said we bleed orange if you cut into us. So.
Well, then Austin, who is it? No one there. I don't know who their major college is.
UT, University of Texas.
When you say UT, girl, I'm from Mississippi. We always think about University of Tennessee. But you know what I'm saying? When you said orange, too. My mind goes straight across there. But
yep, I forget.
I get you. Nope,
I'm going to have to get used to it.
I'm with you now because I'm thinking Texas Tech is down there. Who else we got? University of Texas. That's where Matthew McConaughey hangs out all the time. So, Texas, big state, though. You know that already.
It's huge.
Big state. So, all right. So you're going to school. And what are you going to school to be a teacher? And then when does that come to the next crossing pattern?
I met someone there.
Okay.
And we married, had a second kid.
And you're about how old at this point?
I was 24 when we met. I did not have Logan until I was 20. Gosh. How old was I? I was almost 30. Yeah. Yeah, gosh. When you get this old, you have to really think about
life
the time.
happens.
You're like, oh,
hey, look, true story. I went to a
1, 2, 3, 4.
I went to a class reunion. I'm telling people, I was like, yeah, my 20-year class reunion. They're like, bro, that's our 30-year. I'm like,
wait,
huh? Where did I lose 10 years? How did I lose 10 years? What just happened?
But I was working in Austin. I was working at an accounting firm for several years. It was a great job. Oh my gosh, I learned so much at that job. But when I had that second one, decided for the first time in my life, hey, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm going to just really commit to raising these kids right.
Yeah, how old was your first?
So my oldest was a kindergartner.
Okay, 5, 6.
There's a 7-year difference between them.
Okay.
So it was right at the very end of his kindergarten year when Logan was born. So he went ahead and went to first grade in public school. And Logan, I was at home with Logan as a little baby. And that year was hard, real hard. Started having a lot of issues. Teacher calling all the time. Kids were bullying him. He was just having a hard time. Couldn't quite put our finger on what was going on, but knew there was an issue.
Yeah.
Turns out he had Asperger's.
Oh.
So once I realized that, got that diagnosis, I didn't want to medicate. I was adamant about that. What are my other options? I started looking into homeschooling. So after that first grade year, I pulled it out.
And you had some teaching.
And I was a math and science education major.
Yeah,
so
you're prepared.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I never taught in the school system. I saw the transition and how they were teaching us to teach children how to pass standardized tests. So that's a whole other soapbox I won't get on right now. But it was hard to watch, and it was something I didn't know if I wanted to be a part of. So to be able to teach my own children for 7 years was really an amazing thing and a very special time.
Yeah, that also shows you have great patience.
Oh.
During COVID, when we had to teach our child, I had no patience. And I'm a college teacher, but at college, it's a little different.
It's different.
I can give them stuff, they do it, they don't, they don't. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Up to them.
Yeah, but your own kid, you're like forcing them, it's a whole nother game.
There was a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error. But I wouldn't trade that time with them for the world.
That's good.
Like the memories, the things we got to experience and do and see, and the growth that I saw out of my oldest immediately, pulling him out of that environment and putting him in one that was more suited.
Yeah.
And I was able to really work on socialization skills. People are like, well, you homeschool where your children socialize. I'm like, probably more so than, probably more so because they were everywhere with me.
Yeah.
Doing everything.
And at what point do you think, because I figure it probably did at some point, you start thinking to yourself how you have flipped the script now. Mm-hmm. You're being that mom that you would have wanted to have. Mm-hmm. Was that playing into your thought process?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Absolutely.
You're getting that opportunity now to really spend time and pour into them the love and nurturing that a child needs, and being able to be that probably had to be very rewarding.
It was.
Way beyond just being able to homeschool and take care of your child that has this diagnosis, but now you're really being able to be the mom that you wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So you said that the second marriage starts to go south.
It does.
How far into that does it happen?
Before Logan came.
Oh, so before the baby's born.
Yeah, there were many, many red flags. Many, many. And then after he was born, it got real bad.
What was some of the
I remember, I will never forget potty training Logan. He was sitting on the potty seat and I was on the ground and I got hit so hard that I had a black eye for 3 weeks.
What did he hit you with?
His hand.
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't leave
out of nowhere?
Go. Yeah, but just arguing. I'm sitting on the floor potty training our child and we're I couldn't tell you what the argument was about.
Sure.
It was always nothing.
Yeah. That's how it tends to be. Somebody's just walking around with some anger and waiting to be set off.
Full of it. Constant.
Yeah.
Alcohol. There was a lot of
tension. So was that the first time he had hit you?
No.
So when did that start? Because usually, and I'll bring this up because of domestic abuse, there's that line that gets crossed. Couples can be polarizing.
Yes.
If you have similar personalities, like my wife is super docile and I'm super type A, so we never argue.
Right.
But if you got two type A's up in the house, you could butt heads a lot. But there comes that moment where the line's crossed, and once that person has physical contact, it's almost as though the switch is flipped, and now that's a go-to. Mm-hmm.
Instant.
So how deep into your relationship was that first moment?
About 1.5 years.
Mm. And then did it start to become a regular thing? Tends to be that way, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So as you're raising a child, you're trying to potty train, you're homeschooling, you have a child with a diagnosis, you've been down a bad road of one not so great marriage. At what point are you starting to see this and say, dang,
well, I mean,
I'm back in the trenches again?
But in the back of my head, I'm like, gosh, I can't have 2 failed marriages.
That played into it, huh?
I can't do that. That played into it I stayed for 17 years. 17?
Girl, hang on, y'all. I didn't even know all that. 17 years. And it was 1.5 years in, he hit you the first time. And this continued for the next 15. Did you ever have moments where you told anybody? It's incredible.
Yeah, I did. I had a lot of people try to pull me out of it.
Wow.
I left for 2 weeks at one point and went back. Believed all the things. I'm going to change. It's going to get better. I promise I'm never going to do it again.
Domestic abusers are really good at con artistry. They will tell you all those things, of course. And you want to believe it.
You do. I wanted to believe it.
Sure. You got a kid with him. And like you just said, I didn't realize that would have played into it, but you're thinking, already went down this road once. Don't want to do it twice.
I can't do it twice. I can't have 2 failed marriages. What does that look like?
Man.
So you get that in the back of your head, and then you're like, well, and I'm not working. I'm a stay-at-home mom now.
Yeah.
He's in charge of the finances. You just feel stuck.
Way overwhelmed.
Way overwhelmed. So I stay.
Yeah.
We move to College Station, take over the family business. I get thrown into running that and end up having to put my kids back in school so that I can run that family business for them there.
Is your mom around?
Not at this time. So
she stepped out of the picture. You said your dad battled for 16 years. How old?
He passed away in December 2012.
So was he around when some of this was happening?
He was, yeah. The last time I saw him, was that 2-week period that I was moved out was the last time that I saw my daddy.
Wow.
And I knew when I told him bye that day and I hugged him, every part of me knew that was the last time. And it was.
You know, I'm really trying to figure out how in the world you're still going. I really am.
And we haven't even gotten to all the
I know. And I'm like, we're at this point and you're in your 20s and now you're at 30 and you've had two marriages that are abusive and a mom, and then your dad that was the light of your life has now passed away, and you've got this child that you're having to care for and he has to go back to a public school, and you're running a business. And how do you stay going?
You just do. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just have one switch and it's on. And it's
incredible. It's incredible. So at this point, do you have other people in your life, though, that are supportive? Do you have friends?
Well, so when we moved to College Station to take over that family business, I knew nobody. Not one person.
Completely
but we
isolated.
were homeschooling when I moved. And so what I did was immersed myself in that homeschool community there and became the director of a campus for a classical conversations homeschool program we were doing. Because I knew if I put myself in that position that I would automatically meet some other people.
Sure.
Like-minded people. And it worked. I did very quickly form some great relationships there and friendships that I still have to this day. So, you know, thankfully, homeschool was a part of my life because it did enable me to find a community there pretty quickly. But at the same time, you're running a business and you're trying to be the face of that, and you don't want people to know what's going on behind the scenes. So you just keep this face that like, hey, everything's great.
That's so true. So often you'll see a story come out and people will talk about, well, I knew that couple. They always seemed like they had their stuff together. They were really happy. The whole family was great. You'll hear these stories from neighbors, friends, whatever. But behind the curtain, chaos.
My family growing up from the outside, my mom was PTO president or PTA president, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like from the outside looking in, everybody thought, hey, they're good.
So this is, these are so many great topics. I almost feel like we need a series. I think you and I personally need to do a Netflix series on some of this stuff.
Right.
Because I'm a person, I like to dissect some of the psychology behind it, but then also apply that to where other people have seen these moments, but they didn't necessarily recognize it. Were there any signs from you to other people where somebody did come up to you at some point and say, is everything okay, Whitney? So there were things surface-wise, you could pull it off. But people that got to know you, they could feel it. What were those conversations like?
Oh, gosh. When somebody comes to you and is like, I can see.
Yeah.
I can see. I see the hurt.
What was your
in
response
eyes.
on that?
At first, you try to play it off like, oh, no, we're good. But then you're like, wow, somebody sees it? What do they see? Hey, and so then it was kind of a curiosity thing, like, what do you see? So I know how to hide it. Honestly.
I bring that up because I've had several people, in particular, one person, Daniel Bell, that came on. He had 22 years of drug addiction. And the first time that he actually got busted by the cops was the first time that his mom ever knew anything about it. And he had been addicted to drugs for years. Wow. And when I asked about it, she said back then she had no idea what she would now know would be a sign, but she had never been around it. And he masked it so well that she just never had a clue. So a person that has not been down certain roads, maybe they don't pick up on those subtle signs, but someone else that has, it's all of a sudden, it's like a neon sign glowing. So that's why I'm asking, it's like, for a person that's getting called to the carpet, like they say, hey, look, I see things are not going well. That is interesting because part of it then becomes an embarrassment factor sometimes or protective. I don't want to cause more ripples. I don't want to cause more problems. This will just cause things to be worse. So they try to even hide it better. So clearly you were in the trench of, you felt like he was the breadwinner. You had no choice but to stay there. You had a kid. You have all these mental aspects to it and then the physical aspects to it. So then talk to me about the moment in time when things finally start to separate. So 17 years in.
Well, not until my injury happened.
Okay.
So the kids go to school and I go on November 27th, 2017 to pick them up from school. I go inside to sign for a basketball jersey. My oldest son is going to have his first basketball game that night. So I go inside, sign for the basketball jersey, go to leave. Take that first step off the steps to leave the school and fall down the stairs. I don't, like, to this day, I don't know. I don't know what happened. But my legs folded underneath me, and I slid down the stairs on my shins and knees, and they kind of hit every stair all the way down and then hit the concrete at the bottom.
How old are you at that time?
I was 38.
38 years old.
No. Hold on. I have to count back.
I understand.
It's been 7 years. I was 35.
Okay.
I was 35.
So you lose your footing?
So I lose my footing and just fall. And immediately was like, oh my gosh, that hurt so bad. My jeans were ripped. My boots were all torn up. I was bleeding. I mean, you could already see bruising and swelling. I was like, holy cow. But you're embarrassed. You just fell. There's people out there. They're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? My children are standing on either side of me like, what is happening? So I get up and I'm like, I'm fine. Totally fine. Nothing to see here. I get in the car, drive back to the office, walk through the door. And my husband at the time was sitting on the couch and was like, you are not okay. What just happened? He could see it on my face. And I pull my pant legs up and he's like, what in the world? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm a tough girl. I'm stubborn. There's 1,000 things to do. I'm going back to work and I'm just going to power through it. Clearly nothing's broken. I'm walking. I'm fine. I was not fine.
You make it through the rest of that day, I guess.
I made it through 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I collapsed in the kitchen one night, literally screaming bloody murder and pain that I have never experienced in my life and to this day cannot describe properly.
Where was the pain coming from?
In the legs.
Both of them?
Both legs.
Okay.
Both legs. The best way I can describe it, I tell people it was like my legs were in buckets of lava while being wrapped in barbed wire and I'm struggling to get out all at the same time. And there's like a blowtorch going too, like, and 1,000 elephants standing on them.
It's just constant.
Like bone crushing, constant.
Not coming and going.
Not coming and going.
Steady pain,
Constant. And as the day goes on, like you get to the 5 o'clock hour of the day and
it's going up more. What do you think is happening at this point?
Like, I don't know. I'm like, this is the wildest thing. I've never experienced anything. And I've dealt with pain a lot in my life. So I was just so baffled. So I go to the emergency room the next day after collapsing that night. I'm like, I don't know. And they're looking at my legs and they're like, something is bad wrong. No bones broken. MRIs aren't showing anything. Like nothing is showing anything. So everybody's like,
that is weird. Yeah.
Well, walk on crutches. Let's immobilize the knee on the right side. The right side was the worst. That right underneath the right kneecap was just, it was the worst spot. And so they immobilized the knee, put me in a knee brace, put me on crutches. So let's give this 4 weeks. If after 4 weeks, there's no improvement, let's go see an ortho. Okay, 4 weeks. 4 weeks, crutches, brace. I'm still going and doing, but I'm abiding by the, trying to take it easy, trying to do the
Is
right
the pain
things.
staying constant?
Constant.
Wow.
It's
How are you
never,
sleeping?
Oh, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. As
Wow.
it gets worse through the day, the nighttime, forget about it.
Wow.
Forget about it.
Imagine you're taking all the over the counter stuff.
Everything.
Nothing's
Like,
working.
Nothing's working. Nothing's doing anything. And I'm just like, this is just, you're in your head going, I'm crazy. I'm losing I felt like I was losing my mind.
Interesting.
So 4 weeks go by. No. Ortho's like, this is crazy. It looks awful. But nothing is showing. Do another set of MRIs. Nothing. Okay, well, let's give it another 4 weeks.
At this point, you got to be thinking, I can't do 4 weeks.
Okay,
Why are we doing
guess.
4 weeks?
Like, sure. So we do 2. And I call and I'm like, man, I'm dying. I can't do this. So he brings me back in. He makes note of a lot of stuff that day that I don't realize and says, let's try some physical therapy. Sure. I will do anything. You tell me what to do. I will do it. I just want this to go away and get better. So he puts me in physical therapy. I start going every day. I'm like, I will work my butt off in physical therapy. I'm a perfectionist. I will
you got the grit.
Yeah.
You've proven that to yourself 1,000 times over.
I will be here. I will put in that work. And I would leave there and be like dying when I would leave. Like, oh my God, it would make it 1,000 times worse. I show up one day and I'm like, y'all, my pant leg, I feel crazy, but it hurts where my pant leg is touching underneath my knee right here. Like, I cannot stand the sweatpant touching my leg. What is this? They're like, man, I don't know. We're not doing anything today. It was huge and swollen and
So your leg was swollen.
Yeah, every day. And the physical therapist is like, this is just not right.
Yeah.
So he's like, let's do something called dry needling.
I've heard of it.
Sticks a bunch of needles in my leg, hooks them up to some electrical currents, and starts shocking the tissue in my leg, trying to get it to regenerate. I leave. I drive home. I have to pull over on the side of the road because my leg is hurting so bad. My kids are in the car with me, and I can't help it. And I had really tried to shield them from as much of the pain as I could.
You don't want to scare them.
I didn't want to scare them.
Sure.
I couldn't help it. I pulled over and was screaming bloody murder in the car that day, going, what in the world? They're like, ice it every 2 hours all weekend, wrap ice. I'm like, okay, so I do it. By Monday, I called and I was like, whatever happened, it got 1,000 times worse.
Everything they're throwing at it is just creating a bigger problem. Yeah. So and just to be fair on this, so in the medical world, because I've been in it for 30 years, once you do imaging, you run labs, there's nothing that's flagged in your labs, your blood count, everything looks normal. You don't see anything on any of the imaging, whether it's a CT, MRI, X-ray. You do start to become baffled. All right. So then clearly you're 6 weeks into this thing.
8 at this point.
8 weeks. So 2 months in. And life at home is still happening. You're still trying to manage your kids, I'm sure. School's still happening or
running
whatever.
Running
business. Yes. Everything's still going on. And you're in this constant tumultuous pain, which, clearly you're looking for any answer. You're trying everything they're throwing at you and nothing's working.
Nothing.
So 8 weeks go by. What is Whitney doing?
I call after that weekend and I said, Doc, we got to sit down. He brings me in. He said, I was afraid of this. And I look back. He had notated it 4 weeks ago and not said anything. I think you have something called complex regional pain syndrome. What?
Yeah.
What is that? I will never forget this as long as I live. It means you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life and on medication for the rest of your life. It's going to be rough. And that verbatim was his response. And you're like,
that can't be right.
Huh?
Yeah.
And he's like, and I don't know what to do at this point. So I'm referring you on to
I was going to ask
else.
when they send you to a specialist.
So he sends me to a pain specialist.
A pain specialist.
A pain specialist.
That's to mask the problem.
Yep.
I have to ask this. I did try to do some research. There's not a lot of stuff out there.
Nope.
So this is pretty rare.
It's so rare.
Do they give you a percentage of how many people are diagnosed with this?
It's so small.
It's very small.
It's
and I couldn't find numbers on it.
No.
It was so small.
And
maybe I'm not a good Googler either.
No.
But I want to just, if I can, tell a little bit about this as you go into the rest of your story on this. So it used to be known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy, which is a nerve system dysfunction. So it's the nerves.
It's the nerves. It was first noted in the Civil War. Guys were getting shot and not healing, and they didn't understand why. And that's where it was first noted.
Interesting.
Yes.
And so you have basically a dysfunction of your nervous system that, as I understand it, what you said, it's within your body. You carry it.
The peripheral nervous system.
The peripheral. And so then it's when an incident takes place, it kind of triggers it into motion. I'm going to give you the 8 rundown real fast of what the symptoms can be. So if anybody out there, so much of my show is about sharing the stories, but then when there's opportunities for education, obviously I'm an educator. So I want to do that as well. Yeah. So this is interesting to a point. Some of the symptoms, burning pain. You had that sensitive skin, as you said, something touching it, couldn't touch it, bothered you. Changes in skin temperature. Did you have that?
You could be across the room and feel the heat.
Wow. It talks about that. It's a elevated temp that they'll usually feel, not so much as a lowered. So that is interesting. Changes in color of the skin. You had that.
It would turn beet red.
You had changes in the texture.
Yes.
Did you have that?
The skin started sloughing off.
Really? Kind of like a bad sunburn.
A lizard.
Oh, wow. And then it says changes in your nail and hair patterns. This started with you as well. How long did all these types of symptoms come?
The nails started falling off.
Really?
Yes. The hair grew crazy and then stopped growing.
Just on your head, everywhere?
On the areas.
On the areas of the affected on the leg. Wow.
Water would touch it and it would look like an acid burn. If water would fall on that leg, it would turn, like you could see it.
Wow. And then the last two says swelling, stiff joints.
It would swell so much at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it would
what you were saying.
ooze.
She had
At the
weeping.
end of the night, it would be oozing liquid. I know it's disgusting.
No,
it was the reality of what I was living with.
And then the last part is it has a change of ability to move the whole leg.
The leg ended up getting completely frozen. The knee wouldn't bend, the ankle wouldn't bend, the toes wouldn't bend. It was stuck in front of me. I was in a wheelchair with an elevated leg rest.
So from start to finish, how long does it take to get those symptoms involved?
By the time I landed in that pain neurologist office, it was 3 months to the day that I fell. That was when I got the official diagnosis. And at that point, every single thing on that list was occurring. And that doctor was sending pictures to every doctor in College Station going, has anybody ever seen CRPS this bad in anybody? The swelling of the leg, they kept making me go back and do sonograms and make sure that I didn't have blood clots because the swelling, the doctors were just like, this is the craziest thing we've ever seen. Literally, there were text messages going around with these crazy pictures of my leg all over College Station and Houston area between these doctors.
Wow. So how does that make you feel, knowing that you're a specimen? You're a guinea pig of sorts.
I felt like a freak.
I mean, mentally, you're dealing with the pain and anguish of day-to-day life. On top of that, you're seeing doctors clamor to try to figure out what the best route is to take care of you.
I was a hot potato. I tell people for years, it was every time I went to a doctor, I would feel like I was getting ready for a job interview. Like you have 30 seconds to try to catch their attention and get them to want to help you. And if you don't, within that first 30 seconds, forget about it.
You're doing interviews to help your health.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
And you got to win the interview.
And you've got to win the interview. And I cannot tell, I swear to you, probably 50 doctors I got hot potatoed over the years.
My goodness. And so during this time, you're still trying to figure out how your life is going to be better at home because you still have the husband issues.
Yeah.
You're still running a business. You got all this pain. You got doctors that can't figure you out. And you're in just mentally.
Yeah.
How are you keeping things together? Is it your kids a lot of times?
My kids.
You're focused, they're important?
I would get home and I would retreat to my bathroom and fall apart.
Yeah.
I think back to some of those, especially early on, and being so scared. Like, what is life going to look like long term? Am I going to be able to be a mother to these kids? Am I going to keep my wits about me? I felt like I was going to lose my mind. I really did. I thought I was going to go crazy at one point. I literally thought that I would never get it all back, that I would never return to the Whitney that it was before there for a while.
I think that's understandable. Yeah. I'll make a highlight of that point because, it's so easy for us all to see that the situation you're in has so many avenues of difficult. Any one of those things is a tough thing for one person to deal with. All of those things, you can't wrap your head around how you deal with it. So you stay in the moment. And the one thing that I have spoken to so many people with lots of things, anything from being a quadriplegic to having cancer. You can name a lot of different things that have a really potentially bad outcome or a no change outcome. They find the angle of hope. So they look at what can I do? I'm just sharing this because then we're going to go right to this next part that I got to talk about. But there was a guy that had a plane crash and he was an adventurist. The story really does matter. And he was on this talk show, and this is the part I remember. And they're talking to him about how this is going to change his life now because he was a paraplegic and he couldn't do this and he couldn't do that anymore. He's like a stunt man. And they're going on and on about the things he can't do. And then the guy stops him and he says, sir, it's like this. Maybe before the accident, I could do 10,000 things. And I could dwell on those 10,000 things that I used to be able to do. And maybe now I can only do 1,000. So instead of thinking about the 9,000 things I can't do, I'm going to focus on the 1,000 and do those to the best of my ability every day. And I was like, oof,
yes,
that's what you do.
Yes, that's my kind of person.
That's what you do. You find the hope.
Yes.
So where does the hope come from? Because at this point, you've got to get out of this relationship. At this point, you got to find some treatment for these legs. What are you doing?
Well, mission focused.
Okay.
Mission focused. I did. I just okay, my health is the priority. We've got to figure this out. At that point was when my primary that had been seeing me since the beginning sat me down and said, hey, this is a hard conversation to have, but we need to have it. Let's talk amputation. I had done spinal cord stimulators, ketamine infusions, tried every medicine under the roof. I mean, like we had nerve blocks. I mean, like you name it, I tried it.
Sure.
Nothing did a darn thing, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So at that point, it was like, okay, amputation. Wow. Well, does that improve my quality of life? So I start thinking about it. I've got this dead leg that looks insane. It's disgusting. I can't wear shoes. I can't sleep under the covers anymore. Wind can't touch it. Like, I mean, I can't handle anything. So maybe this is the best option.
Yeah.
So he set me up with an appointment with a surgeon. And I go in thinking this is going to be a process. Like to get a spinal cord stimulator trial, I had to go do a psych evaluation. Wow. So I'm like, if I had to do that for that, then there's no telling what I'm going to have to do for an amputation. Oh, no. I walk in. He looked at the leg. I was getting gangrene in my toes.
Oh, man.
He's like, it's got to go today. And I said, man, like, what? What? Can I have 2 weeks? He said, no more. This was at the beginning of COVID.
Oh, geez.
Surgeries were necessary.
Yeah,
only.
you had to have like emergent situations. Yeah.
So this April 20th, 2020, I went in and that first leg was amputated, but I went in alone and nobody could come and visit. I couldn't have food delivered. Like the kitchen was shut down. You didn't get options. Whatever they brought you is what you got. Like that was not the greatest hospital stay.
Well, no.
At all. But I woke up from that surgery. 2 hours later, somebody came in to talk to me about getting up on a prosthetic leg. And I'm like, let's do it.
Time to go.
Let's go.
The optimism of hope was rekindled.
Immediately. I woke up, we had that conversation, and I was like, you just gave me a goal.
That's it.
So what did Whitney do? I'd been in a wheelchair. Give me those crutches. Give me that walker. I got up and started trucking up and down that hallway immediately. The very next day, everybody was like, what in the world? I'm like, y'all don't know me very well.
That's right. So we have a term here. I think they use it in Texas as well. Hold my beer.
Hold my beer and watch this.
Because I'm about to show you.
All of my friends know.
That's right.
Hold Whitney's beer and watch her go.
That's it. Wow. So then you're up, you're moving, you're walking. You come back home.
I come back home. I refuse to go to a rehab facility.
Wow. Tough as nails.
I was like, I don't need that.
You need a book. You write a book, Tough as Nails.
It's coming.
Oh, girl, I want to read it, and I've just interviewed you. In the middle of this, I'm thinking, I got to read this all again.
We'll get there in a minute, but it's coming.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went home, and I started physical therapy. I went 4 days a week, and that was April. By July 4th, I had my prosthetic leg and was at the coast fishing and up on it for the 4th of July.
A lot of optimism. Now you're feeling like you're getting your life back.
Feeling like I'm getting my life back.
Pain gone?
Pain is significantly improved.
Okay.
Like almost completely gone. So much so, like when I woke up from surgery, surgical pain was so different than CRPS pain that I was like, this is nothing.
Perspective.
I got this.
Once again. Yeah. It's when you've been through some tough storms, that little thunderstorm that comes along, you're like, that ain't nothing. Yeah, I've been through some things. So then what's life like with the second husband at this point?
When he dropped me off for surgery, when he dropped me off for that amputation, he pulled over. The kids were in the car with us. He said, I will never treat you again like I have in the past. I promise I'm making a commitment to you now. No more. He drops me off. I was told by my children that he did pull over after he dropped me off at the hospital and kind of broke down and told them, I promise, things will look different from this point forward. I think I got 2 weeks out of the hospital and it was right back.
Really?
Right back. Man, it's like, boy, that didn't last long.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling better. What am I going to do? I'm going to keep advocating and I'm going to go for Miss Wheelchair Texas.
Nice.
And I did. and I got it.
Awesome. So what does that entail?
I was Miss Wheelchair Texas 2021. To apply, I had to write 3 different essays.
Okay.
And then I had to have 3 other people write a recommendation letter and send it in. And then I had to create a platform. And so I spent some time writing those essays, collecting those letters, developing the platform, sent it all in, and was like, it took a while. I was like, I guess I didn't make it. And then January of 2021, like January 1, I got an email. Hey, we would like for you to be Miss Wheelchair Texas.
Wow.
And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. Sign me up.
It feels to me a little bit like a full circle in a way, because you started out being an enthusiast to dance that put you on a stage in front of people performing. And here it is. It is another piece of the puzzle of Whitney putting her life back together.
Yes.
In the midst of some more turmoil still, you're like, here's a place I could go. And then you're excelling at this now. So what is life like then with your kids? Are they thinking to themselves, hey, look, mom's back?
Yeah. I mean, things really did start feeling pretty normal again. I was doing lots of podcasts and a lot just, trying to raise awareness, a lot of news articles and just going to different events and stuff, just trying to raise awareness for the disease and rare diseases as a whole and people with disabilities as a whole. Right before I went to July to Ohio for the national competition, Governor Abbott of Texas invited me to the Capitol and had a whole, literally red carpet rolled out in the media room for me and news cameras there, and spent an hour just talking to me. He's also in a wheelchair. He was running in Austin, Texas, and a tree fell on him.
I mean, you want to talk about freak incidents? Incredible.
So we have that understanding of life changes in a split second to both of us, and so it was a really awesome conversation to get to have with the governor of Texas, literally the day before I went to the competition in Ohio. So what a great way to be sent off.
Sure, absolutely. Hey, some big high notes for you. And I think everybody listening and watching up to this point would say, Whitney deserves some wins. She does. She needs it. She deserves some wins. Yeah. So getting some great wins there.
Yeah.
So then you go off to the competition. I know you said you ended up coming up short on that, which, by the way, I feel you on that. Recently had an award that I was nominated for, got past the regionals, went to the state, lost in state. But it's all right. It's all right because
you were there.
I was there. I was in it. So I feel you on that. You'll want to win the big prize.
You do.
You can be disappointed, but not discouraged. There's a difference.
I won the Mona Johansson Spirit Award, which honestly meant a lot to me. They said it was based on watching me interact with the other, women that were competing and, in the different events that we went to in the 10 days that I was there and stuff. So they were like, your spirit just really shines. And so
I can feel that.
I think that almost meant more to me than winning the whole thing. If I really,
I think it's very appropriate that they gave that to you for certain.
So, I mean,
your mission has not been self-serving. Whitney's difficulties were not meant for just Whitney to get strength from.
No,
it's to give strength to.
Yeah,
and they clearly saw that, which is what that award to me would say.
Yeah.
Is that while you're there, you're giving these other women encouragement and strength, and that's what the Spirit Award is all about to me, anyways. So, okay, you come back from there now. There's another part of this that we didn't get to.
So while I was there, the disease was spreading to my other leg. The last night of the competition, one of the girls looked at me and said, Whit, if you don't start taking care of yourself, and she knew the marriage. My husband wasn't with me. He wasn't even watching on TV.
Again, probably becoming a part of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. So she saw, and she's like, if you don't start choosing you, you're going to end up losing another leg.
Wow. Yeah. Did you see the signs showing up in that other leg too? So you knew as well. Were you trying to be maybe like, well, maybe it's not going to be the same? You want to be that way. I would think that. I would want that.
I am the most stubborn human being on the face of the earth.
Again.
Not again. I will fight it.
That's right.
I will fight it.
So how long until that turns into?
So that was July 2021 when I first saw it. And it was amputated September 2022.
Pretty short.
Yeah. In April, we did a surgery to try to save it.
Wow.
And it failed. So we knew when the surgery to save it didn't work, that it was going to have to go.
So double amputee up to the hip.
Above the knee. Not
above the knee. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, above the knee. Second marriage gone.
Mm-hmm.
Whitney still got 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're living in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Some things start to get better for you.
Yes.
Some clouds do part.
They all parted.
Talk about what those next steps are. Because coming out of a double amputee, you could easily fall back into a state of depression.
And I did. After that second one, I was still in the marriage. It was awful, and I completely lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
Deepest, darkest depression. I put on so much weight. I mean, I was huge. I was bedbound. I was sick. I was dying. I found out that my husband had been having an affair. And that was the catalyst to say, I don't care what this looks like.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. So I kind of set some money aside for a little bit and made some arrangements. And after 17 years, packed my bags and went back to Amarillo. And when I landed there, I mean, I needed everybody's help for everything. I was not in good shape. Had I stayed, I would have died.
Yeah, that's what you had mentioned to me.
Everyone around me knows it. And everyone that sees me now compared to where I was when I left, it's pretty remarkable to see the difference.
And we're talking 3 years, 2.5.
A year and it's only been a year and a half.
So big change.
Huge change.
Yeah.
So I moved to Amarillo. It took a while for me to get to a place mentally where I could, really start working on myself again. Not very long, a couple months. I needed a couple months. But then I started a journey towards fitness and health again, and was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm reclaiming my life. I didn't get out of that environment to come here and continue to feel sorry for myself.
Yeah.
So I started just kind of pulling my head up above water, started eating better, started working out, started venturing out of my comfort zone and trying to do different things and travel a little bit and just broaden my horizons, just take this opportunity really to go, hey, what, the last 7 years you've been held back.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do now?
I think it would even be fair to say for 20 plus years, your life had not really went in a positive, consistent direction for Whitney. Mm-hmm. And let's just talk about this real fast, because here it is. You have all these tools put into this toolbox now of strength, willpower, stubbornness, desire to be better. Mm-hmm. No matter how many times you get knocked down, you get right back up, you keep fighting, and you find a different way and a different path. Then in the moment, when it's real easy to see, I'm withering away. Mm-hmm. I've let things finally kind of fall in on top of me, and I can't get out of this thing. You decide, all right, one more move for Whitney. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Amarillo. I love the light bulb moment that you just shared of how you're sitting there and you think, did I just go through all of that hell to come to Amarillo to just die sitting here? No, it's time. Mm-hmm. And that's the decision that people have to make. We started this conversation talking about victimhood versus victor.
Yes.
You were a victim of a lot of stuff, Whitney. Let's be very fair. You were a victim of some bad marriages. You didn't want that in your life. You didn't ask for that. You didn't go to a guy and say, look, I'd really like to marry you. Try to be as physically and verbally as abusive as possible. It's really going to make me strong later. You don't do that. You didn't ask to have this very rare, bizarre disease to take over both legs. You didn't ask for that. You were a victim of some things that you had no control over. Nothing you did wrong put you in that position. There's nothing you could have probably done too much different to avoid the situations that took place. You didn't ask for a tough mom and a tough life growing up. You didn't ask for any of this stuff, Whitney. So to remain a victim would be so easy.
So easy.
So many people could look at this and say, Whitney, you are a victim. But you know what? Whitney says, I'm worth more than this. I will be the victor. And that's what we have to do in life. Mm-hmm. When you are faced with such difficulties and you can look at every single moment and say, I didn't deserve that. You didn't. Maybe you didn't deserve any of it.
No.
But you have a choice still to make.
Yes.
And the choice is, are you going to move forward? Are you going to let this take you all the way down? And you were at that point. You were at the point of being taken all the way down after all these years. And you made the decision to keep moving. And when you did that, you eat better, start working out, start getting back to your life again. Now, at some point, this brings you towards Mississippi.
Yes.
Talk to me about how that happens.
So in September, I came to Memphis for the first time. I've always been a huge MMA fan. Always watched UFC 1. Okay. Like it has been a part of my life.
It's the inception.
Then my children got into MMA. And I was at a fight in Texas in 2021, had the one leg was gone, and it was my children's coach's first professional fight. At intermission, the ring announcer comes out to introduce himself to me. Guy from Memphis. Hey, what's going on? Would love to know what happened. Explains his story. He was hit by a motorcycle in 99. Should not be alive. Should not be walking. So kind of hit it off and we're like, wow, that's pretty cool. Stayed in touch, supported me through my amputation and just have been friends for a long time. Brought me out in September to come hang out and met the first night that I was here, kind of did a dinner with another woman that's a double amputee, another guy that is a single amputee, and then Wes Joyner. Who's in a wheelchair. So that was my first dinner out. We called it the Cripple Crew.
And Wes has an amazing sense of humor.
He does.
People that, if you want to go see Wes Joyner's episode, he was on, and he wears like shirts to the gym, says, I do every day but leg day. I mean, like he's not a victim either.
No.
He's not a victim either.
I mean, we instantly hit it off because we have that same sense of humor. If you're friends with me, you have to make jokes about having no legs. Like, it's just part of it. It's how I cope. So we really hit it off. And I told him, that I was a huge hunter before all of this happened. And I missed it so much. And he's like, what?
I know a guy.
Kind of know a guy because I love to hunt too. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, sign up for this Hope Outdoors hunt in Mississippi in November, or November through January was when they were doing them, and just see what happens. I'm like, heck yeah. So I went home from that trip and I'm in the airport and I'm applying. I'm like, yes, sign me up. And about 2 months later, I got the phone call that I had been chosen to go on that hunt in Coldwater, Mississippi in January.
Wow.
So in January, I got to get back in the woods for the first time. I was in a ground blind bow hunting 2 weeks before my accident.
And now you're back.
2 weeks before, and now I'm back.
It's full circle again.
It's full circle again.
You're taking back everything that was taken from you. You're going back after it. Wes, by the way, is how we got to know each other. He's the one that connected us.
Yes.
So then you're back to hunting. I'm assuming you'll be doing some fishing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're moving to Mississippi.
I'm moving. Well, and so jiu-jitsu is something I've always wanted to do my entire life. Waited until I lost both my legs, and now I'm training some jiu-jitsu over at Law School MMA.
Wow.
Been doing that since October, and I love it.
Incredible.
There's some really good videos out there of me doing some training.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. It's a great way to exercise.
I would imagine.
Learning some self-defense at the same time, too. Like, if something were to happen, if you were in a position, how would you defend yourself? So those kinds of things have come up, and it's, I don't know. I love it.
Yeah. So then this new guy.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about him?
So, he's pretty incredible. He is the definition of, like, we will make it work. We will figure it out. Like, my mentality of nothing's going to stop me, he adapts even more so. So
iron sharpens iron.
It does. And man, like, I swore after my last one, I was like, I will be alone for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with it.
Understandable why you would think that. Yeah, I get it.
I wasn't looking. It just kind of happened. And to have someone that sees me for who I really am for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Like, truly sees me. Doesn't see me without legs. It's like, no, you can still do all the things you want to do.
Yeah.
Drives me to be the very best version of myself that I can be. Like, that's what life is about. That's what relationships should be about.
100%. 100%. Yes.
And so now we are starting a business in the area.
What's it called?
It's called Adaptability Home Services. We are going to go into people's homes and help take care of anything you need. Elderly, dementia, but really, really, really hoping to help with limited mobility people that have been through a circumstance like he or I, and an accident that happens out of the blue, and you go home and your whole life looks completely different and you don't know what to do. Your house needs all these modifications. I went home and didn't know how to brush my teeth. I didn't have anybody, I couldn't get to my sink anymore. I didn't have anybody come in alongside me and help me figure these things out. I just had to figure them out on my own.
Wow.
So to be able to go into somebody's home and help them go through something like that is literally like the most rewarding thing I could possibly think of.
That is definitely the give back. All those things that you were taught and that you had to go through, now you are the expert in being able to share that with somebody. You know, being able to run that business that probably felt like a punishment at the time now gives you a lot of business sense, I would imagine.
Yes.
So, man, the culmination of so many things that come together for you. And if there's one thing I would tell someone is, wherever you are going in life, just keep going. Just keep moving. Keep going. Because things can be better. But they will only get better if you're looking for it and you're working for it.
Absolutely.
And once you give up, it's over. I always said this so many times. Failure's not final until you quit trying. As long as you keep going, failure is temporary.
Yes.
It's just a setback.
It's just a setback. It's a little tiny little speed bump along the way. You know? Yeah. And I'm also writing this book. So I've got a children's book. The children's book will be out May 12th.
Okay, what's it called?
Called Wit and Wheels, A Journey of Courage.
Awesome.
It's about a little girl that's ballerina and loses both of her legs. It's very loosely based on me.
Sounds very familiar.
So it will be out May 12th, and then I'm immediately going into writing my autobiography.
You should.
Immediately. I'm hoping that it will be out in 2025 as well. And then I'm also going to do children's book number 2. So
awesome.
The
Start
writing thing is, yes.
Start a series on it.
I am.
Whitney, and I need to ask this. Where are your kids today? How are they going?
They're good. They're in College Station.
Okay.
They're still there. When I moved, they didn't come with me. The oldest is grown and moved out and has its own family. The youngest is in high school, was established, and it was best for him to stay there.
Totally understandable.
So that's where it's at. But they're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
That's good. I mean, all these things they've been through, hopefully they understand it. I think they do, because you're the great example. When you have a mom that has gone through the trenches, you just cannot even think about how strong they will be whenever they're your age, as they get older and they have their families. I promise you, I like to talk about seeds being planted. And you don't know how long it's going to take for a seed to grow. Every tree grows at its own pace, but I promise you, they're going to be strong oaks. It may take a while to get there sometimes for some, but they will get there.
Yeah.
You've done a great job, Mom.
Thank you.
Whitney, your story is incredible. I think, I want to stay in touch with you, and I want to know what happens next in your life and where you go with it. Thank goodness Wes Joyner reached out to me back in the day and came on my show. And because with him, I was able to meet you, and you're an amazing person. And then, of course, you got to see Coach Camp do his thing 4 days after nasal surgery.
It was incredible.
So you see, I'm not the fighter you are, but I'm a fighter too. I got in there, girl. I was like, come on, I got to do this thing.
Y'all, when he got in there and he was like, I just had surgery 4 days ago. And I'm like nasal surgery.
You can barely breathe.
And he's in the octagon, like getting everybody fired up before these fights. And I was like, wow, okay.
My wife's like, you're not going to be able to do it. I say, there's no way I'm going to not do it. She's like, well, just do a little bit, half of it. I said, only know one mode, straight 10, turn the dial up. Got to go. It's got to do this thing. Whitney, is there anything you want to leave my listeners with as we wrap up today? Just an amazing story of struggle and fight and desire to keep going and thriving.
Never give up hope. Never give up hope. Every day when you open your eyes, have a choice to make.
Yes.
What is today going to be? Is it going to be a good day? Are you going to let everything that happens to you get to you and take you down and grumble about it? Or are you going to take those opportunities and go, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow today?
Yes.
Like, get up and make that conscious choice. Every single morning when I wake up, I make a conscious choice. Today's going to be a great day.
That's awesome. That's what you got to do. Because if you say today's going to be a bad day,
then it's going to be.
It's going to be a bad day.
And who wants that? I've had enough bad days.
Amen, sister.
No more.
I'm with you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me on.
Yep. To my listeners, I want to thank you guys tuning in and sharing your comments, sharing the episodes. That's what makes this a community. That's what makes this feel like a small network. Whenever all of a sudden you look out there and you see people in Ireland to England, I feel like we're a big family, and it's just a small network, but we're a big family, and I love that. I'm going to ask you guys right now to go to my website, motivatedcoachcamp.com, subscribe to my YouTube, and until next time, Coach Camp Ow!
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out.